Thank you, Michael. Welcome, everybody. Recapping and going back through the Houston game. Again, compliments to Houston for a well-played football game. They played better and coached better than we did. That's always the case anytime you're on the wrong end of it. I thought overall, just like I did after the game, that through the first half, you're in a good football game. I really felt we lost some momentum with that last field goal at the end of the half. Another situation where we're out of it, but we roughed the passer. So make a critical mistake that ends up leading to 3 points. And that kind of started it. And then in the second half, we come out, have a really good defensive stop, a 3 and out, get the ball back in good field position. We're driving the ball, and we kicked a long field goal. And our kicker got anxious, started to kick too soon, had to stop, lost his momentum, and was not able to complete the kick like he normally does. Therefore, it's returned on us, and we don't cover it well enough. They return it for a touchdown, and then it goes fumble. They get a touchdown, another fumble. And before you know it, right there in the third quarter, we're in a deep hole, 16 points, and it gets you, of course, out of balance, in particular on offense. But so anyway, some of the issues I thought in the first half didn't play very well together. Though offensively we were really clicking. I think we scored 4 of our first 5 possessions. Defensively, gave up some yards and some drives, but held them to some field goals in those situations. And so you're, back and forth in a pretty good game. Then in the second half, well, anyway, the first half, I just felt the third down issues on defense hurt us, whether it be coverage or penalties. And then in the second half, like I said, the defense plays better and the offense doesn't. So we're, and we give up the big play with the return. Anytime, to me, you're an away from home playing a good football team, you give up a return for a touchdown and 2 fumbles, you're on the short end of the turnover ratio. You're going to be on the wrong side of it, and of course that's the way it was the other day. So anyway, so back and forth really. The turnovers, the penalties, I thought were an issue, and the third downs. Both sides, offense and defense, needed to be more efficient in that regard. But so anyway. Tough position to start, right now being 0-1, but we got a long season ahead of us. Our guys are very aware of that. We get a chance to start off here at home this week with Louisiana Monroe, team with coming off their first win and new coaching staff. They got a lot of new life, so we got to do a lot of work this week to push for improvement. That's what we're really, in the way we practice, everything that we're doing has to be sharper, has to be better, and believe it can be. I thought offensively, the inconsistency, I thought a lot of it was, us forcing the issue, trying for the big plays instead of taking what was there for us with getting the ball out sooner with some of our reads. We had plays there, got a little greedy, waiting for bigger plays, and then it leads to whether you're stripped of the ball or incompletions or getting chased around in the pocket instead of just taking some of the throws and some of the execution that was there. Could have been better. So anyway, that's both sides. We got to again push hard for improvement this week for Louisiana Monroe, and that's what we'll start doing.
How do your receivers play? Was there separation?
Yes. I think a lot of times, again, it's what I said. I think, and I hate to, I only have one quarterback. I don't like to throw players' names, but at times Baker held on, instead of taking what was open and what was there in his first read, was waiting for something different, something that takes a little longer to progress. And and that's not how the offense operates, and we had guys in certain spots that, that would have been easier throws and would have helped us.
On Seibert's kick, it's just a timing issue on it?
Yeah, I mean, someone asked me, I think it was Dean after the game, I didn't realize it at the time, I was watching the protection, but it's plain as day. I talked to him about it, and he said between the two of them, and they do this all summer. It hasn't happened in all our practices. But he started early, so he was too soon. He had to stop, and he lost his momentum. Just it's the way it goes.
Play have been blown dead then because of he's moving toward the line of scrimmage at the snap, false start.
I don't know that they do that with kickers. I don't know that it was that obvious, but it is on tape. I mean, he takes a step and stops, but so I don't. That's that'll be something to review. But
how'd you feel about the offensive line's play overall?
the offensive line actually is one of the better groups that we had, both sides of the ball, and how they played. Jonathan Alvarez, Orlando Brown were really stand out as having great games, but with all that they were throwing at us, the offensive line really picked it up and did a pretty good job.
But do you have to be more committed to the run, or was it that you felt you just got in a hole and probably had to throw more than you wanted?
Yeah, it looks that way, but at halftime, I looked it up, we ran the ball 14 times for 83, 85 yards. It's pretty good. It's what you want, and only threw it, I think, maybe 9 or 10 times. So we were in good balance. And then the third quarter happens, and now you're behind 16. We were driving. We fumbled 2 times, and we had the long field goal that gets returned. Now all of a sudden you're in a hole, and you lose your patience. I'm not saying it right or wrong. It can get you out of your rhythm.
With so many new receivers in the lineup and so many changes on the offensive line in your first game, did this is not to make excuses or anything, but did the quick touchdowns and the quick strikes kind of take you out of a rhythm or an ability to see what the defense wanted to do to you? And
I wouldn't say that. I mean, anytime you can get quick scores, you're going to take them. And I thought, in those particular plays, well-designed plays and well executed. It's part of the third quarter too. Is we've got D.D. Westbrook on a double pass wide open, and we can't convert it. And I mean, that's just an example of where we've got to make some competitive plays. They made more than we did, in that regard. And because right after that play, which, has a chance to be a touchdown, we get stripped of the ball the very next play. So our execution needs to be better.
Bob, can you talk about just your secondary and the play there? I know a lot of back shoulders throws that were completed on you guys.
A lot of one-on-one throws that we've got to be better at competing with them. You can only cover so many ways, and in the end, you're going to go through games. You're going to have one-on-one matchups, and you got to be able to go up and play the ball and either break it up or get it. And we've got to do a better job of doing that.
you anticipate personnel changes or anything like that?
Well, we'll see. There'll be more competition. I mean, but that's something that could happen. That's something that we're going to pay attention to all week, and who's competing the best and making the most plays. But we do that every day too.
How do you evaluate a guy like Parrish Cobb when it's his first time on a college football field going in like that?
Yeah, you give that some consideration. That first time out there, that usually you're only going to keep getting better. And Parrish competed well, so so that's something that is considered.
Michael Jones is not in the too deep. Is he?
Yeah, he just hasn't quite caught up. I mean, to where everybody trusts him to be exactly where he's supposed to be all the time, and in routes and blocking and everything else. But he's working his way, back in there.
Does he understand and can he block? Does he do the things besides?
Well, yeah, but obviously if he's not in there, he's missed enough that he isn't quite consistent enough. So, as the coaches get more comfortable with him, he'll have a chance to be in there more.
Your injury situation.
Should be okay. Samaje was just muscle, no structural damage. Steven, is sore, but is played through his injury and should be okay by the end of the week. We'll see, but trying to think that was it.
Was Dahu Green not available on Saturday?
He was not. He's still is going through some protocol from a previous injury, so he's closer, but the doctors hadn't cleared him yet.
Mike brought up after the game doing more to help that cornerback opposite Jordan schematically.
Yeah.
How much can you do?
There's you can only do so much, and we did the other day, and they worked us in some other areas, inside as soon as you go there. So you know, you have to try and create some ways to do it, but you can only do it so much.
What do you think of your linebackers? You know, new guys.
They played okay. I thought Obo had a really good game. He had some good pressures, some sacks, forced another sack. Had a lot of tackles. Thought he did really well. The other guys were good. They were solid.
How do you think Tay looked in his first start?
Okay, you could tell. As Dean said, or someone said about, or Kerry had said about first time out there. I think he can be better, and I think he will. The more he, as he plays more.
You tried Micaiah on a punt return. Is that something you'll look at a little bit in the future? I know you didn't really had that many punts in the game, so.
Yeah, possibly.
Bob, you mentioned a long season ahead, and obviously your guys are aware from last year you can lose a game and still achieve some lofty goals. Do you have a sense of how this group is going to react after losing?
Yeah, I could tell after the game, they're disappointed, but still, angry and know they've got to be better, and that was the mood. A lot of them were around yesterday, even though they had their day off. And so I do believe they'll respond the right way. That doesn't mean, but we're not looking down the road. When you lose right here like this, we got to get better today and tomorrow, and and be a better football team Saturday. And that's all we're trying to do. Is make that improvement by Saturday.
Clemson game and now Houston, 2 big plays with personal fouls. Roughing the Dimitri, I think it's Dimitri down in the Orange Bowl. How do you coach that and try not to cut into a guy's aggressiveness, but also let him know he can't make plays like that?
What I put them up and show them. I show them the clip, the coach's clip. I show them the TV copy of what everybody says about it and how it affects you, and I show the aftermath, which that'll happen today. I'll show the penalty and look what it leads to. It's just it. And how do you gotta trust your players to have some discipline and listen to what we're trying to tell them, and that takes some, discipline and to be able to do it. But ultimately, I've got to keep hammering it home. But you do your best to keep showing the results of it, and hopefully at some point they listen.
We asked you so much back in the spring about all the leaders that you lost. Do you need adversity sometimes for new leaders to emerge?
I don't know you have to have it, but usually, in these kind of times, certain guys will step up and start to demonstrate it more. I don't know if you have to have it, but it generally leads to that.
Was there anything?
Mayfield seems to play best when people are doubting him. Do you see him being extra motivated after losing the first game of the season?
I haven't seen him yet, so we'll see how. I'm sure when we go to practice today, he'll be one of the ones pushing for improvement and working hard to make it.
I look back, Bob, on the couple of rough seasons that you guys had, 2005 and 2009. When you lose those season openers, and you yourself look back and said, well, I think 05 you talked about entitlement, 09 you talked about the offensive line and how that may have been undervalued. Was there anything in this offseason, that red flag, where you look back and say, yeah, we probably should have seen that coming?
No, our guys worked hard. They played hard. We didn't execute well enough. It's because you play hard doesn't mean you're going to execute well, and that's the bottom line. And you can't tie years together. I mean, in all due respect, to 2005, we also lost about 18 starters from the year before. So, point being that it's always different, and that's why I say it every year. Every year is different, and so anyway, these guys worked hard. We didn't execute well enough. That's players and coaches, so that's our job to get it better.
They sent on the field goal after the timeout. They sent the man back there, and what adjustment could you have made?
I don't know that you can. I mean, you can not kick the ball, but Austin's going to kick that ball out every time in his normal rhythm. That ball's going left or right or through the goalpost, but I've never seen it short at that distance with no wind. So we didn't hit it right. That's how it goes. And when you're covering not with your protection group isn't your best cover group, but we weren't expecting it to not go into the stands at least.
You guys
Public is going to look at the fact that Ohio State rolled, you got them here, then you're at TCU, Texas looked great. That's going to be the buzz. Will will you address any of that big picture, or is everything just today with your club?
Everything's today, and how are we going to get better today? So that's all that matters.
In the second half, there was a momentum swing. Why do you think that happened?
I've been through that because of the point change, right? I've been through the whole third quarter, and that's what gets you out of your rhythm and can make you lose patience.
You just mentioned if he pitches the ball, he goes 50, and I think about the penalties where it seemed to be poor judgment. You're talking a lot about execution, but it seems like you're detailing a lot of could have done this but did this instead. Does it surprise you that your players sort of made bad choices on the field?
Yeah. I thought we were ready to execute better than that, and not have foolish penalties too. It's fair to say.
Coach, some coaches don't like to play high-quality opponents like this first game out of the box. This one didn't go the way you wanted. But do you gain more by simply having played it than maybe playing an opener like Akron last year, even though it didn't go your way?
That only works when you win. So it's fair to say that, I guess. But
Bob, Texas looked really good yesterday. Does that, when a squad that's got tradition like that, hadn't been up to their standards, has a game like that, how much does that help Big 12 prestige and status, and how important is that in the current situation?
oh, I'm sure it helps the overall, status. Anytime, you're whoever wins, it does. So.
Most coaches have to balance that with thinking, well, it's great for the league, but it's harder for us because we got to try to beat them. They're hard for you to beat because of the nature of the rivalry. They're hard to beat no matter what kind of team they're.
I don't, at this point in the year, once we get on the field in August, I'm not sitting here worried about what somebody's saying about the league. All I'm worried about is Saturday to Saturday. So that's for you all to deal with. I want to say care less, but that isn't in my thoughts.
Bob, do recruiting, or maybe should recruiting rankings matter? Do they, when you see somebody's got a bunch of 5 stars and somebody's got a bunch of 3 stars, do those things matter in the scheme of a team and how you construct a team? And you're going out and getting elite talent, and maybe this team you're playing is not getting what is considered to be elite talent.
I don't know. I've said this. Dean and I, when did our show yesterday, we were talking. I've said for a long time in today's game, maybe been saying it for like the last 10 years, there's a lot of good football players around the country everywhere anymore, because there's more players, I believe, that are developed well in high school, coached well as pay closer attention to nutrition and lifting, and are more developed coming out of high school than there's ever been. And that's been the case. So I just think there's really good players all over.